Good afternoon and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Management and Entrepreneurship. Now, this video series, this is part one of a video series, is designed for business leadership students in my classroom for 8th grade. So this is for 8th grade students, okay? So if you're watching this video, this is who it pertains to, okay? So we're going to be looking at a couple different things, more specifically what managers and what entrepreneurs might have to look like in different areas of the business, okay? What they might have to look at and how they have to think. Because believe it or not, entrepreneurs are often tasked with wearing different hats. What I mean by wearing different hats, I mean sometimes they have to think like a computer technician. Sometimes they have to think like an operations manager, all right? It all depends on the level and the nature of their business, right? So this is going to be looking at the broader roles and responsibilities of managers and entrepreneurs, all right? And for those who have taken my class before in 7th grade, okay, in Introduction to Business Management and Administration, some of this might seem like a review because we spent a little bit more time focusing on certain areas, but I wanted all 8th graders to partake of this information, okay? So, for those who have taken my class, think of this as a good review. For those who are new to the class, get ready because you're fixing to find out some great information here. All right, so next slide. Here we go. It should be going to the next slide now. I guess I have to hit the space bar. Is it not working? There it goes. All right. Big ideas. Here's what we can expect overall broadly from this unit. What are business managers and what do business managers oversee? Okay. When I'm saying business managers, I'm talking about people who run a business, managers. If I were just to say managers, it could be restaurant managers. Well, so I'm talking about people who run a business, right? What is an entrepreneur and what are entrepreneurs responsible for? Is a business manager the same thing as an entrepreneur? Well, an entrepreneur might have hired the business manager. Okay. It all depends on the context. Each business is different. And that is the key thing here. Each business is different. So we're going to look at what they're responsible for, what do they oversee, and finally, what career pathways are available for select management areas, and what are the typical education requirements or skills needed for those areas. Here's what that means, okay? If you hear something in entrepreneurship that you're like, you know what, that really connected with me, so I might not be interested in being a business manager, or I might not be interested in being an entrepreneur, but you know that whole thing with tech support and information technology, yeah, that was right up my alley. Give me more of that, Mr. C. What's it going to take to follow a career here? All right. So that's hopefully some things that we could take away from this lesson. All right. Essential questions. All right. So these are the broad questions that we should also be able to answer. So we have our big ideas and we have our essential questions. What are current trends and issues in regards to businesses and the roles managers are directed? All right. What does that mean in regular language? Well, what's currently going on in the business world, right? And what do they have to think about? Because believe it or not, the business world is very fluid, okay? It's constantly changing and never stays the same. In fact, I can make the argument, if your business is doing the same thing every day in and out without ever changing, something's going to change around you and your business might suffer, all right? What are the structures in regards to the way businesses are managed? We're going to look at some of that, all right? And then we're going to look at what personal traits and aptitudes do I possess, in other words, you possess, right, that may tie in with the associated career. So if you're good at math and you like numbers, maybe something in accounting and finance sounds interesting to you, right? If you like dealing with people, maybe something in recruiting and hiring and training might sound interesting to you, right? What leadership skills may be needed to help create better working environment with the respective roles? Remember, this is business leadership, so we're going to kind of look at that overall. Hopefully, when all is said and done, you'll be able to answer those questions in some way, shape, form, or fashion. All right, so here we go. What exactly is an entrepreneur? All right, so when I think entrepreneur, okay, I think of immediately these big rich people, okay, such as the Jeff Bezos, right, or Elon Musk, or even Donald Trump is an entrepreneur, and his family, currently he's president, regardless of how you feel about him or not, right? He is still an entrepreneur. That's how he got known by, right? Him and his family were entrepreneurs, okay? But there are other entrepreneurs as well. Think about the Lake City area, okay, where we're at, all right? The people that run Ed and Barb's Cream Donuts, those guys are entrepreneurs, okay? The people that started Roundtree Moore, okay? The Ford Place, those guys were entrepreneurs, right? So an entrepreneur then can be defined as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. Okay, initiative and risk. All right, so that could be the owner of a small business or the owner of multiple businesses, right? Because they're the ones putting forth the efforts, taking the initiative to start the business, okay? Whether that's putting the money they've earned into getting the business to start, right? Or putting their credit on the line to start the business, okay? Or whatever they have to do. They're taking the initiative to start the business. It could be a stakeholder of a business or enterprise. Now, I'm not talking moo cow steak, comes up on a plate, you eat it at one of those fancy steak places here in Lake City. Nope. Stakeholder means they have an interest in the company. They've invested in the company in some way, shape, form, or fashion, right? They might be an investor, okay? They are called the stakeholder of a business or enterprise, right? Usually, an entrepreneur runs and operates the business. And once the business starts to grow, they can pass on that responsibility to somebody else so that they can continue working on other ventures, etc. Okay? Or if they're an investor, okay, they might invest in the venture, okay, and have somebody else operate the business for them, okay? So there you go, okay? So they usually run and operate the business, and if the business is successful, they reap the rewards. However, if the business doesn't do well, the entrepreneur usually suffers the consequences, okay? So there we go. What's an entrepreneur? They usually run and operate a business with considerable initiative and, of course, considerable risk, and they reap the rewards, okay? All right. So if you're thinking, Mr. C, I don't want to start my own business. That sounds horrible. I have no interest in that whatsoever. Well, that's fine, okay? Again, maybe you think of a career here as we go over them, okay? And you think, well, that side of the business sounds really interesting, and that's definitely more up my alley, okay? All right, I'm going to tackle the next slide. So overview. Here's what we can expect through the next series of videos. Okay, there's going to be this video plus 4 others, right? This video, we just introduced the concepts, and we're also going to dive into business information and information management here in a few minutes, okay? We're also going to look at human resources, in other words, controlling the human element or the staff element of the business. We're going to look at operations management. We're going to look at accounting and finance. And of course, we're going to end with administration, administrative support. Now, I understand that administration, administrative support is a very, very loose term. So what exactly does it mean? And do entrepreneurs have to worry about that? Well, we'll consider that when we get there. All right. All right. So the world of business information management. I'm going to leave this slide blank for just a sec. And I want you to think for a quick moment, what in the world is information in regards to a business? What's information? What is data? Think about it for just a sec. All right. Now, if you're thinking, well, data might be just a whole bunch of stuff on a computer. You're on the right track. If you're thinking, when I went to the grocery store and I saw all of those gallons of milk, right, in the refrigerator, my parents made sure that they chose the milk that was had the longest date. In other words, the longest point from today's date until the time that it expired, right? That information is data, right? So there's data all over the place, right? Especially with modern business, there is data constantly being received, sent, right? Whether that's audible data, you're receiving data right now, right? Think about your internet stream, right? That's receiving data that's being converted into visual audio information, right? Right now, you're looking at images on the screen. That's data, those words and numbers. That's data and information, okay? So in worlds of information management, entrepreneurs need to think about what data is important. How are they going to get the data? How are they going to hold on to the data? How are they going to store the data? And when are they going to be done with it? Okay. More specifically, modern business information management deals with electronic data. Okay. So computers, hardware, so on and so forth. the transmission of that data, okay? So recently, the idea of business information management has transitioned to the flow of information within the business because it's a digital stream, okay? So that might also, though, outside the world of digital, okay, include things like the mailroom, okay? What's a mailroom do for a business? Well, they take physical parcels and deliver them out, right? It might include things like telecommunications and databasing in the electronic world, or information technology. That's what IT stands for, information technology, right? Right now we're using information technology. You're watching this, if you're on campus, right, and you're watching this video, there's a whole lot going on in the background so you can see this information. There's a whole lot of information technology that's accessed really fast, and that transmission of data is going really, really fast, so on and so forth, right? There is information technology going on with this cell phone to tell me what time it is and how much battery charge is left, and so I can check the latest pictures on my Insta whatever, right? So yeah, information is everywhere, okay? But in modern business, we're thinking along the context of digital information, okay? Pretty simple there, okay? Now, if you're thinking, well, Mr. C, why do entrepreneurs need to think about those kinds of things? I mean, that sounds like something for like Google. And are you saying that I could start a company like Google or like Yahoo or like Amazon? Well, maybe, because they have different data considerations as well, all right? But that's a topic, I think, for another day, all right? All right. So think about the flow of information for just a second, and think about what happens with the information even just coming off the internet, okay? So here's what we got, all right? We have what I like to call the information management cycle, okay? Now, this information management cycle, it looks complex, but it's really simple when you think about it, right? So think about this. Entrepreneurs and businesses have to think about who has access to what information is important, okay? What technology can access that information? And is there a process that information needs to be accessed with? Example, okay? If I was, let's do Target. I like Target. Target is an awesome place to work with, right? Right now, I can go on the internet, right? Go to Target.com and find out a whole bunch of cool information about Target. I can find out what the latest videos are, what the latest video games are, what the latest release is, right? See the newest furniture, see what the sales are, see what's coming up for Halloween decorations. What kind of Halloween candy do they have? Who knows, right? So that's important information for us as a consumer, okay? Now, think about what information is not important for us as a consumer that the managers at Target might have access to, right? They know how many people are currently on the job at their store. They know who's on staff. There's even a little computer database to tell them how much money is sitting in cash in that cash register, how much inventory is available. Now, is that important for you to know as a consumer? No, right? Is it important for you to know the address and the personal information of some of the employees? No, right? What do you need to be concerned with? What's in stock? What's on sale? What can you buy? You have access to the information through the internet to that, right? It makes sense, okay? Now, certain technology accesses that information. What does it do? The technology, all it does is just acts as a kind of like a gateway, right? I'll use that term loosely. It just sends information, receives information, right? And it only sends the information that you request, right? And that you can see, right? Business information managers control who has access to it, what they have access to, and how they access. Again, it's a combination of people, process, and technology. Okay? All righty, there we go. Next slide. Business information managers are also responsible for acquiring or getting the data. Okay? They are responsible for holding on to the data. Okay? Keeping it secure. What are they going to do with it when it gets old? Archiving and storing the data. And then when the data is no longer valuable, how do they dispose of the information? Okay? It also includes and considers the flow of information within a business, like what information is important, right? Think about modern credit cards, all right? Right now I'm digging out my wallet, right? And I am going to pull out a random card and hopefully block the numbers so you can't see it. But here's my credit card. Okay, there it is. I got my finger over the numbers, right? But in the event that I want to use my card, right? All I have to do is slip this thing into the magnetic chip reader, right? It'll read that little chip dealy here, okay? Send a signal to somebody and say, hey, is this a valid account? And it'll say yes or no. Great. If it's a yes, okay, is there enough money on the account to make this transaction go through? You'll get a yes or a no, right? So you're getting that information. So that information is important for that transaction, okay? But like I said earlier, you know, the personal information, like how many children does a worker have, is not valid for certain applications, okay? Or think about top secret work, right? So like somebody was doing something for their military, or there was a special chemical company that was trying to get a patent on something, right? They'd want to keep that information secure, right? They'd also be very careful on who can view the information and who can modify it, and does it need to be protected, and how do people access the information, okay? And how is it accessible, okay? That makes sense, right? Like right now, I could use my smartphone to tell you how much money I have in my bank account. That's important information to me, right? And the bank says, yes, if you have a smartphone and you can prove who you are, you can have access to that data, right? In the world of entrepreneurs, that could be a multitude amount of things depending on the business that you're in, right? So yeah, all of that is in special consideration, all right? Business information characteristics. So people who choose careers in business information management are often very, very detail oriented, okay? Because they got to pay attention to the details, right? The details are important. Are the lines of code correct? Are the lines being ran in the store correct, right? What kind of computer systems do we need? All right? You don't want to overlook something because something can turn up missing, and you don't want data to come up missing if it needs to be secure, okay? They're going to have great knowledge of computer information systems, right? Like the world of IT, okay? Networking infrastructure and how things communicate with each other. Like how does this communicate with the towers, right? Can I send a message from here to my laptop? If so, how does that happen? What's involved with the process, all right? Business information managers might know that process, okay? Entrepreneurs, you got to consider technology, right? What technology are you going to have in the business, all right? And, you know, how are you going to keep things on file? Like example, what if I have employees clock in? How do I make sure that somebody who's clocking in is the person who's actually clocking in, right? And how do I calculate overtime and make sure taxes are paid, right? All of that is important information for entrepreneurs and business information managers, okay? There might be some familiarity with databasing. Databasing is a storage of information, okay? With database management, again, managing that storage of information. You might have a knowledge of programming, depending on the business. And then, of course, security, keeping people out that don't need to have access to something. Now, the cool thing is, depending on your world that you're dealing with information management, you might not be limited to working behind a computer, okay? You might be working on network installation, installing server rooms, or building cooling towers, or something like that, right? So there's all different sorts of area that deal with information structures. All right, so if you're one of those people that are going, man, I really like computers, Mr. C, and I really want to get involved with everything I'm hearing about, great, wonderful, all right? So if entrepreneurship isn't for you, no big deal, all right? Let me show you what it takes to become a person working in information management. Now, I have this little chart here. This little chart tells me a couple different things. One, it tells me for business information management, right? It says other pathways with related occupations. You could work in information and support services or networking systems. You'll see those slides here shortly, okay? Now, if somebody wants to work in information management as a manager, okay, high school diploma or GED, ain't going to do it. All right, for most jobs, okay? This is a basic rule of thumb, not the absolute, okay? But most of the time, not going to work, right? Less than a 1 year, that means you have some time maybe at the technical school, or maybe you got like you're working in community college for a little bit or something equivocal, not going to work, all right? Now, for those who have 1 to 3 years of education, such as an associate in science and computer sciences, yeah, you might be able to get into business intelligence analysts, all right, computer user support specialists, even with some basic certification. You could be a database architect, computer user support specialist, so on and so forth, okay? And there's a lot of different ways to go for that. In fact, you can become CompTIA certified, okay, and start with basic level network administration. Speaking of which, 4-year degree will get you into or closer to the world of computer systems analysts, which may make a lot of good money, okay, database administrators, and technical writers. What do they do? Well, I don't have time to go into that in this slide, and that's out of the scope, but you can Google these terms on your own, see how much money they make, see what kind of careers they have, so on and so forth. Now, where it says advanced degree, that usually means a doctor's or master's degree, okay? And so you can work in operational research analyst. Now, if you're wanting to work in information support and services, then yeah, that technical degree or that maybe that certification with like computer operator will definitely be there. Mr. C, hang on, we're operating the computer right now. Does that mean I'm not a computer operator? No, that means that you're a certified computer operator, that you know a little bit more than the average person about a certain application, okay? You have business intelligence analysts and computer user support specialists and document management specialists. And maybe you have over here informatics nurse specialist. So basically, yeah, if you're dealing with information inside of a hospital, okay? Technical writers and computer science teachers and operation research analysts. Again, each career and each choice is a little bit different. Then you got networking systems, again, requiring that advanced or college or technical degree, right? Data warehouse specialists, database architects. Computer networking administrators over here for the bachelor's degree. You kind of get the idea there, okay? You can read that and stop the slide on your own. Ooh, excuse me. All right. So that brings us to the end here. So you have a couple questions posted on Google Classroom, all right? And you should see that activity on Google Classroom. So you should be able to answer these questions based off the information that was presented to you today. So good luck, and then we're going to count on, look forward to our next section in the next video.